here recently on Instagram, everybody's taking pictures, NFL starting back up. We just talked about the preseason quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Another preseason quarterback, Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Sports Twitter, I guess, is undefeated. I seen it on Instagram, though, but I know it's off Twitter, and they had a picture of Joe Burrow and his brace, and they said, starting QB back soon. And someone said, back soon? That's the biggest knee brace I've ever seen. Y'all should have just said 6 weeks. I was like, eesh.
Sports Twitter's undefeated, man. Joe Burrow's my rival.
Terrence Marshall, he had a touchdown.
Yeah,
I think, for Carolina.
Yeah, no, he got caught.
He had a touchdown. He got caught.
He got caught. I think.
I didn't see the end of it.
But
I just seen he was running for
highlight. Yeah, he was open. He shook a dude, but
he was wide open.
But I think Joe Burrow's my rival. I'm a Steelers fan. For you guys that don't know, so I gotta.
How you feel about that big?
I had to watch him destroy Georgia in college.
Just for him to go to the pros and
just for him to go to the Bengals, and now I gotta face this. I gotta see this guy for the next however long he'll last with the Bengals, because he definitely is not going to retire in Cincinnati. I don't think, but
I don't think any quarterback really does.
Joe Burrow is a great quarterback. I mean, I think he changed college football in a good way.
He had one of the greatest college football teams of all time.
Yeah, that team, that LSU 2019 team, look, don't get me wrong.
Changed.
They absolutely cooked our team, but man, that was an honor. You know what I'm saying? Just being able to face them and see our team
people
pit up
be
against that talent.
This is the greatest team of all time. And then your child's gonna be, your grandchild's gonna be like, who are they playing right there in the red and black? And you're like, they're my Georgia dogs.
Yeah.
That's Jordan Davis getting outran by Joe Burrow.
Team.
And then them throwing a touchdown.
That's my team getting cooked. This is like one of the best teams, because when
we're gonna be in documentaries.
We're gonna be in documentaries, yeah. When you look back on it, and it's crazy that that's what it takes to beat Bama. Look at that roster that they had: Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow throwing 60 touchdowns.
Look at the NFL.
Yeah.
You got Joe Burrow, who's a starting quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yep.
You got Justin Jefferson, who's a starting wide receiver for the
1,500 receiving yards.
You got Terrence Marshall, who's doing pretty good in the preseason.
Yep.
You got Jamar Chase, who is probably going to be a starting wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals.
He will start, yes. They don't have any.
And that's just mentioning the star power. Oh, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who is, what is he? He's basically sharing snaps for the first. He's getting third down back.
He's a starter.
He's a starter.
He's a starter for the Chiefs. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
just the offensive firepower. Yeah. We haven't even started on the defense. And not even just that, you got Derek Stingley, who we were just talking about, who could be easily one of the best defensive players in college football this year.
Yeah, because I think Derek Stingley's freshman year was better than his sophomore, and that's not discrediting him, but I definitely think his freshman year was just outstanding, and he was a dog. It was great to see George Pickens be able to go up against him as well. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, man, this is an honor, and it took that talent they had on that team. That's what it takes to beat Bama. Because even then, they still won that game by 5 points.
To think we walked into that game and we were talking, we were like, man, if we keep this within this amount of points, I don't think it's a bad game.
Me and you were actually talking.
And we got absolutely smacked.
We were talking like we had a shot. And then when they caught that first touchdown, I was like,
we were talking. We were like, bro, if they do this, we got a shot by halftime.
Yeah.
And then we go out there, and this man, Joe Burrow's throwing crossfield on the run touchdown. How do you stop this?
That's greatness, man. That was an honor. I mean, I wasn't even mad. I remember I wasn't even mad when that game was over, because I was like, well, it's Georgia, and this is. I mean, look at this team. I mean,
I think I've told you. I had a friend that gave me a Christmas gift, because that happened around Christmas, and it was I opened the box, and at the top, the lid of the box, it had the score, score, God. like if you go on Google and look up the score, and it shows you the quarter, and then it shows you the final score. Like the quarters and the final score. That's what was on the top of the box. And I look into the box, and it's just LSU colored confetti in there, covering the gift. And I was like, you really just did this to me.
That's disrespectful. After
this, it wasn't even a heartbreak of a loss, but it was just like, this team just got pummeled. Like Georgia, I know we was crying on our way back to Athens. We were just like, well, what happened, man? Why did we deserve this?
What do you mean what happened? We tried to run that soft zone, and Joe Burrow was the quarterback. I mean, 60 broke the record for most touchdowns in a season. Come on, man.
I don't even want to talk about it. You know what? Let's stop talking about the past greatest team.
Yeah.
We have current with possibly the greatest defensive player in college football, Derek Stingley, featured on this roster.
Derek Stingley?
What is up, guys? This is the Sports Junkies Podcast. And we talking about the LSU Tigers today.
Tigers.
We're going to give you a season outlook. Tigers. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
We got a bunch of crawfish boiling in the kitchen right now. And we prepared because Ed Orgeron is trying to return this team back to that 2019 greatness, which is impossible. It's impossible to do that again.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's going to try to at least take this team to the playoff, which is it's possible to take him to the playoff. It's impossible to build that Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, it's impossible to build that again. I think it's impossible. It's not impossible to get those players back on the roster, but to have them perform like they did that year, like any type of player, that's impossible.
I'm gonna tell you exactly why it's not impossible. Because we just saw how dominant.
It's not impossible.
We just saw how dominant Alabama was last season, and then they just added the #1 recruiting class of all time to the mix. So I think in a couple years we might see Alabama pull something crazy off.
I don't think we'll, I mean, I'm not saying I don't think we will, but I don't think we will have the same. It will have the same magnitude as Joe Burrow throwing for a record touchdowns, winning the Heisman.
And I think
you have two receivers in the top two Blitnikoff.
Yeah.
And then you have a running back who, if you handed it or thrown it to, he could easily get you a first down.
And I think I
don't think we'll see that again.
The reason we won't, I don't think, see it to that magnitude again is because LSU before that season was really just LSU. Like we know LSU is a team that can be dominant every once in a while, but they had really been stagnant for a long time. And
they were really
season,
they weren't a bottom feeder, but they were definitely in the middle of the SEC West. They weren't as bad as the Arkansas and Mississippi State, but they weren't as good as Auburn. They weren't as good as Auburn and Alabama. The past years before 2019.
Yeah, I'll give it to you because Auburn was kind of good.
I was about to say,
Auburn was kind of good.
They didn't do nothing.
So they were the third best team in the SEC.
Yeah, they were like the third, fourth best team because you had Texas A&M was pretty decent, and then they kind of fell off, and then they came back, and then they, they're at where they at now.
I'm not gonna say Texas A&M was better than them. I mean, maybe now, yes, but we saw Jimbo cooking something.
Anyways, they returned to SEC West greatness in 2019, and in 2020 is supposed to be a huge, I'm talking magnitude year for them. They have Miles Brennan coming in, and he's not as good as Joe Burrow, but they're like, hey, this quarterback is good enough to lead us back to a SEC championship at least. And then they end up going 5-5.
Well, I don't know where you got the information that it was supposed to be a huge season, because I remember everyone knew what type of season they were set for.
They start off ranked. Well, I mean, it's not really the fans thought that. It's the media outlets. They started LSU at what? It was ranked 5?
I mean, well, that's because they had just won a championship with the craziest roster of all time. But you got it. They lost. I think it was 80% of their productivity from that team. So
they lost. I mean, but you also had Jamar Chase sit out. Terrence Marshall. Right. Terrence Marshall played, didn't he?
Yes.
Terrence Marshall played, and then you lost what? Patrick Queen.
Patrick Queen was gone.
Who else you lose on that defense? Grant Delpit.
Yep. No. Whoa. Grant Delpit wasn't on that team. No. Grant Delpit was already drafted. Grant Delpit? No.
Grant Delpit was on that team.
He was not on that team.
I could have sworn he was on that team.
No, he was drafted. I think he was drafted.
Let me Google this.
Grant Delpit was a rookie in the NFL last year. No.
So was Joe Burrow.
Grant Delpit was drafted the year Deontay Johnson was drafted, and Deontay Johnson set up for his third season in the NFL right now. So no, that's not it.
He won the LSU, where he was a 2-time consensus All-American selection and winner of the Jim Thorpe Award as a junior in 2019. He was selected in the 2020 draft, so he was on that team.
No, the draft isn't.
What do you mean?
The draft is in April.
Joe Burrow was the first pick of the 2020 draft.
I'm not sure, Joe. I don't think Grant Delpit was on.
We just watched the 2021 draft.
I don't know. You might be right, but I'm pretty sure Grant Delpit was not on that team.
He wore number 7, as Derek Stingley now wearing number 7.
Gone. Derek Stingley has 7 now, but I don't think there was a 7 last year. We're getting too deep on it, but they lost a lot of productivity on that team. Their whole offense was gone. Not to mention Joe Burrow was gone. I don't think people really thought. I thought people felt like they were using last year, especially with it being COVID and everything. And Jamar Chase was like, "I'm training for the NFL." People expected LSU to go to, even before the 2018 season, they were LSU, but people expected them to be lower. than LSU, and that kind of showed last season. I mean, their first game they lost to Mississippi State, which
Mississippi State
we thought was that good. We thought that was like something that was going to be some crazy, like, you know, Michigan. I mean, Mississippi State.
I called that game. I called that.
You did.
I called that. I
remember. Then Mississippi State wasn't really that good of a team.
They went on Mississippi State wasn't, they like after week 4 everybody was like Mississippi State's not good.
Yeah.
And then you've seen LSU go loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. And everybody's like LSU's not good. Because they lost to Mississippi State week 1, then they lost to Missouri, Auburn, and then obviously Texas A&M and Bama.
I'll tell you one thing.
Great team.
They beat Florida. They beat
Marco Wilson.
They beat them. Get Marco Wilson. Shouts out Marco Wilson.
You seen the baby? He had like a throw thrown at him, or a shoe thrown at him.
Yeah.
And Marco Wilson commented. He was like, "My bad, bro."
Bro, you gotta embrace the memes, dog. You gotta embrace the memes. But I think, I really didn't expect
the big
LSU to be that
last year
that
was
good
quarterback.
Of a team. Yeah.
It was quarterback and Jamar Chase was sitting out. Those are the big stories.
Ed Orgeron is trying to refine the identity of the team, kind of like how Georgia might have to do a little bit this year. We lost a lot on defense last year. We lost some a little bit on offense, you know, including most of our O-line. So now but the thing about Georgia is we have the talent, so we've got to find our identity, and we got to find it fast because we play Clemson week 1. With LSU last year, you don't really expect them to do much,
that's the thing.
Especially seeing how good Bama was.
It's going to be easier for teams to find their identity this year, just because last year they didn't get the spring training, spring practice, the spring games. You know, Georgia didn't get that, so this year we did get that, and I feel like it'd be easier for us to find our identity. And you got to think that LSU had a big quarterback controversy last year because Malzahn played good, then now he's requiring surgery. They had I forget the other quarterback's name, but he played decent where they were like, okay, we'll start him. And then they had freshman Max Johnson come in, and he played exceptionally well. And now he was just named starter not that long ago because Miles Brennan is going to require surgery. So now the big story right now is, okay, you have a spring game that you played already, I think. Yeah, everyone has. I'm tripping. Anyways, they've already played a spring game. So you're really asking yourself as LSU, can Max Johnson play like he did last year? Because he had Terrence Marshall last year. And I told you, me and you both knew this. Terrence Marshall was a sleeper wide receiver in that draft. So now you're playing at LSU. Be honest with you, I can't name a wide receiver on that team. I'm being honest, I really can't. And they lost Eric Gilbert to Georgia. So you gotta look at Max Johnson continuing his success, and Will losing these stars receivers, and 5-star Eric Gilbert really hurt them this year. And I think it honestly will.
Right.
But I don't think it'll hurt them to the magnitude where they go back to, not really back to bottom feeder, but where they are a bottom feeder in the SEC West this year. Personally, I don't think it'll be that bad of a dip down. I think they will improve just because they had the time during the spring, during the off season, to find an identity. Not the identity of the team, but an identity where they're like, okay, we can at least win games with this team. And I think throughout the season, they will get better.
You said you can't name a wide receiver on that team. Don't disrespect Kayshon Boutte like that, man. Don't disrespect him like that.
My bad.
Louisiana 5-star prospect. Come on, man. Number 2 wide receiver in his class. And I know LSU will get better because their defense is dangerous. Okay? Look at the prospects on their defense. You're talking about Derek Stingley, which we know Derek Stingley's a dog. But on the other side, they have Eli Ricks. He was the number 1 cornerback in his class. And yeah, they lost Eric Gilbert, but their defense is really shaping up to be dangerous. Remember, they have BJ Ojulari, you know, our guy's brother, and they've really just got a lot of talent shaping up on that defense. So I'm not worried about LSU really dipping. I think last year they had to circle a bit of identity issues, but this year they'll be fine, especially with Max Johnson taking that starting quarterback role, which we think. And the big question is now, how good will the offense be?
Can I ask you that question? Do you think that, I mean, you just said that his defense is great. LSU always has a good defense. We know that. But can this defense help them enough that this offense can outscore teams?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, nobody should put up, when we talk about points, no one should put up 25 plus on this team. So we're looking at, can this offense put up at least 30 points per game against SEC teams, SEC talent? They got John Emery Jr. Don't forget about him. He chose LSU after LSU dominated Georgia that one year. He literally decommitted, said it wasn't because of that, and then instantly committed to LSU. Max Johnson, who looked to be a good quarterback, he looked like he was building something. So, where we were talking about with Wisconsin that we didn't think they were doing that great of recruiting, LSU has had a top 6 class the last 3 years. So last year, once again, find our new identity. It didn't go so well. This year, let's build on that. Sage Ryan at safety, Derek Davis at safety. I mean, they do some great recruiting, and that
they basically had to use last year as a spring game the whole season, just because they didn't have an identity. They went 5-5. They had gotten blown out week 1, and I don't think people understand how much getting blown out week 1 means to a team. Mm-hmm. You go into every team goes into week 1 thinking they're going to win because they have their identity set with the spring games, which they didn't have last season. But I mean, you still have your identity set, which you think can win games, and then to go out there and get humiliated like they did on national television, being the they were 6, weren't they? I think they were number 6, the 6th ranked team in the nation. Mm-hmm. And you get blown out by Mississippi State, who just got a brand new quarterback and a brand new head coach without spring games. That really just set them back, and they just took a step back, and they're like, we aren't 2019 LSU anymore. Yeah. We need to find a real identity. And I think they just took that year. Again, losses to Mississippi State, Missouri, and Auburn. Those were not good teams last year.
And I think you got.
Auburn was decent.
Yeah, I think you got to put slightly a little bit of that blame on Ed. As a coach, you got to realize.
Me and you were talking about that because you got to think after 2019, people were saying Ed Orgeron was the best coach. Not really the best coach, but he was a top 10 coach in the league. You were like, he just coached the greatest team of all time. And I'm like, and the most of the praise that those coaches got was Joe Brady got a lot of that praise. Mm-hmm. So you got to take a step back and you're like, okay, Ed Orgeron, he can recruit.
That's another big loss.
That's another thing.
So
and you got to take a step back and you're like, okay, can Ed Orgeron coach this team as highly as he's thought of? And I think this year, even though yes, he won a national championship, I'm not saying he's on the hot seat, but this is a real. They're going to take a close look at Ed.
Yeah. This is really going to show us what type of player he is. I mean, what type of coach.
And I don't think he'll get fired after the season if they play bad. No. But I'm telling you, if he plays like how they played last season, and if they play bad this season, and the next couple seasons, Ed will quickly be out the door.
He definitely
teams like LSU, Bama, they wouldn't. I'm not saying Bama because they don't have to do it. But I'm saying like Georgia, if Georgia just took a decline and just played like that for a couple years, Georgia would have no problem replacing that head coach because coaches want to coach at these big schools. You got to think of what the SEC is turning into, adding Oklahoma and Texas. They are about to, like we said, they could be their own division of A football, FBS football. They can be their own division if they continue to add these teams. And you got to think that these coaches that are top level at these other schools are going to be like, well, I'm not going to win anything here because let's say like it's head coach of North Carolina, not Mac Brown, but let's say they get a new head coach. He's like, well, I'm not going to win anything here because Clemson's always going to be in my way. And we're not going to get the same recruits as Clemson because Clemson's in South Carolina. So like, okay, let me go to Georgia where I'm in a completely different conference. I don't got to worry about Clemson. I will have to worry about Alabama after Oklahoma and Texas join. But I can find that team a new identity, I think, better than I can find North Carolina an identity. Because I'll instantly have a pipeline state of Georgia. So, and LSU is in that where they can just kick Ed out the door if he's not doing good after a couple years. And they can easily find a new head coach, I feel like. People will want to go to LSU.
Yeah, well, I think, and we'll let LSU fans confirm this or not, but I'm pretty sure Ed has enough job security to last him at least 4 to 5 more years, regardless of how LSU plays. Recruiting is great. And I don't think his job security will revolve around the fact if he can beat Bama or not. Because Auburn has taken a massive decline. So I don't think we're really worried about Auburn.
Auburn just beat Bama and Gus Malzahn out the door. So obviously the SEC West jobs are not determined by Bama. It's determined as if you can win games in general.
And
not
I mean
just Bama.
And I feel like that's the reason why Gus lasted so long is because we saw how good Auburn could be, but they never got to reach that full potential. But and you got to remember, Auburn was having those weird stages where they'd be terrible for 2-3 years and then they'd be good. So I think I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna pause you there.
if you want to learn more about Auburn's quick decline and recline in history and all that, you can check out the problem with the Auburn Tigers.
Problem with Auburn Tigers. Go ahead. Quick plug. Come on, man.
Brand new head coach.
But I think the whole Gus Malzahn thing, that was cooking for a while, man. That wasn't just them not being able to beat Bama. You got to consider they were good.
Georgia fans.
Yeah, they would go. They would be a great team 3 years bad. Great team 3 years bad. Like they weren't doing good enough recruiting.
Exactly how we talked about it. It was the senior classes that really just played well. Like it was like they'd have a good recruiting class, and then 4 years later, when that class is seniors, they would play exceptionally well.
Yeah,
like you got to think this team went from a national championship against a top team in the nation to not making the playoffs. Where did they go?
Well,
couldn't beat Bama.
Well, like I said, you say where did they go? I mean, they went to the NFL. You know what I mean? Come on, man. It's quite simple. It's no real reason to brag on their decline because, like I said, I think we all saw it coming. But the good thing is LSU definitely has the utilities to keep this team good, and a lot of their players are just developing and trying to get better at football. But you got to realize that this team will get back to being good. But as of right now, look at Bama. Bama's not slowing down. They got Bryce Young stepping in now. They're gonna be good. Can LSU find a way to be better again? Well, let's see what Max Johnson has in his sleeve because we know the defense is gonna shine. I can tell you right now, this defense is gonna be dangerous. But I'm still worried about their offense a bit. And to me, I think that's the biggest question when we look at LSU. I know Ed Orgeron can build this team. How well can he keep this team as a premier team in the SEC? Because we've seen him do it in 2019. So can he get that team back to winning, back to beating Bama? Because that everyone in the SEC has that same problem. Can you beat Bama? Can we beat Bama? Just like everyone in the Big Ten has that problem. Can we beat Ohio State? ACC, can we beat Clemson? No, you cannot. No one in the ACC is good enough to compete with Clemson. But the LSU, I mean, the SEC has better players. They get better players. We know this. And where we might, some other teams might fail. Teams like LSU, Georgia, they get constantly great recruiting classes. It's not like LSU's not getting a top 10 recruit. Like I said, they've gotten like 3 or 4 straight top 6 recruiting classes. So Ed hasn't skipped a beat there. But as we learn now, the quarterback position is the most important. You need a dynamic, top-tier quarterback in order to compete. And do I think the LSU Tigers have that at this exact moment? I'm not saying Max Johnson won't develop or Miles Brennan won't be great, but they definitely need some time. It took Joe Burrow 2 seasons as a starter to reach the potential we saw him reach. So I definitely don't think LSU will reach that 2019 team as of right now, but they definitely got some talent coming in, and that's something to look forward to if I'm an LSU Tiger fan.
Well, okay, so with that being all said, this team opens the season UCLA, Fox Sports, 8:30 p.m. You look at their schedule. They got UCLA, which is not a huge. I'm not saying they're not a huge team because of their name. I'm saying just because they haven't performed like a huge team here recently. Then you come back home to LSU, and you have 2 bottom dweller teams in McNeese and Central Michigan.
You said 2. You might as well say 4. I mean, what are we looking at with Mississippi State? What are we looking at with Auburn?
I'm just saying you start conference play now.
Right. Yeah.
You got Mississippi State. You got Auburn. You got Kentucky. You got Florida. I feel like this team's first test. I'm not saying UCLA is bad. We just haven't taken that deep dive on them yet. But
UCLA
Florida
is pretty bad.
To me, your first.
They're not making no noise.
Your first test. I know their quarterback is really good though. I'm just gonna say that now. But Florida is your first test. Florida, we talked about Florida. We did talk about Florida. And I just feel like Florida being your first test, that's a huge first test.
I mean, in reality,
even though we did talk about them.
In reality, Auburn is going to be their first test. And Auburn, like I said, Auburn isn't really that. They're declining. You can see that. But let's see what Brian Harsin can do to Bo Nix. Because, I mean, Bo Nix was a 5-star quarterback who came in and started instantly. And he just hasn't improved. He was his best year was his freshman year. His best year.
Bo Nix capitalized on the NIL.
Yeah, because
he signed a deal with
he was the first person. He was the first person I think that signed a deal.
Bojangles.
Yeah, so I think Bo Nix is supposed to be a dominant quarterback, but he hasn't gotten there. So Bo Nix's best year was his freshman year. He has declined since. He's going from Bo Nix slowly to Bo Picks. And we there's something, because Auburn should have had a worse record than they had last year. Remember, a lot of games were really gifted to them, and they got lucky a lot. Yeah. And that's the whole Auburn motto, is being lucky as heck. That's their thing. So I think Auburn will really be their first test. I mean, it's at Tigers. It's a home game for LSU, but you never know what you're gonna get from Auburn. Like we talk about, Auburn will be bad.
You also got Florida at home,
and then great. Exactly.
You got Florida at home.
Florida's that game.
You got Texas A&M at home.
Florida's that game. I'm gonna be real with you. I think Florida's taking that game. And if that leads me to my prediction, LSU is gonna lose.
Yeah,
LSU is gonna lose.
You went first in Wisconsin.
Okay.
I'll go first. Here. Mm-hmm. I said LSU. Even though yes, we've talked about them struggling and trying to find identity, I think they will go 8-4.
That's correct. I have that too.
I have them losing to Florida, Ole Miss, Bama, and Texas A&M.
That is exactly the same thing I have as well.
I think that's perfect. I think LSU's defense is great, like we talked about, but that Ole Miss offense
is different, and I don't think LSU will really be able to compete with that. Like,
and that game, it comes down to outscoring. It comes down to outscoring. I don't think they can outscore a 40-point game or 40 points per game team as Ole Miss is.
And their defense is only going to...
Texas A&M.
As good as I just said their defense is going to be, which they're going to be great, they're only going to be able to slow you down. It's not going to be able to really neutralize the team.
It's going to slow you down so much, especially like we just said, the game is changing to offensive teams. Ole Miss has already... They haven't made that switch to... I mean, they've really made the switch to being an offensive team, but they aren't on the caliber of offensive team as Alabama was last year.
Yeah.
And Texas A&M is... I feel like Texas A&M is like a Georgia, where they got a mix of both
Texas
offense and
A&M
defense.
is getting really good, but they've got that quarterback situation that,
Yeah, they just lost Kellerman.
So let's see who the quarterback is and how he steps up, because Texas A&M could take a huge step down. You don't know.
You just don't know how that next quarterback.
We know their defense is good, but let's wait to see how.
And we know the surrounding players around the quarterback are above average at least.
Yeah. So
I mean, it really just comes down to, can LSU outscore Ole Miss?
Mm-hmm.
Can they? I don't think there's a chance for them against Florida. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah,
with you. Or Bama.
When we look back at Bama,
I think the biggest chance they got out of those 4 games is Texas A&M. Just because we don't know how that quarterback is going to play in game. I mean, by that time, because that's the last game of the season for them, by that time we will for sure know if that's a win or loss for Texas A&M.
Yeah, I'm not going to confirm. I'm not going to confirm losses to Florida or Ole Miss, because don't get me wrong. We really don't want to sleep on the fact that they have Eli Ricks and Derek Stingley on that defense with some great safeties in the back.
But I mean, if this Ole Miss team can return to playing how they played last year against at least Bama, they played really good against Bama. If that Ole Miss team comes to play against LSU, which is middle of the season, and you're at Ole Miss,
which is probably 50 points, a good 50 points on your head.
That's why I'm saying I can almost guarantee a loss for.
And I think Florida's cooking up a pretty dominant, unorthodox offense with Emory Jones. We made a video. We just talked about Florida. Yeah,
you can check out that video if you want to hear more in depth about how we feel about Emory Jones and all the players surrounding him. But I mean, back to LSU. Go ahead, what you're saying about Florida.
Yeah, I really don't. I'm not going to confirm Florida's going to win. This game is in Baton Rouge, and you know how dangerous it is walking into Baton Rouge and trying to win a football.
Baton Rouge is one of the most dangerous.
The only team immune to that is Bama. No other team in the world is immune to Baton.
I don't know, man. That Troy came to Baton Rouge and won.
Oh my! Wow, they won one game. Oh my God, Troy, bring them back. You know what I'm saying? Bring them back. We're talking about teams that they face. Religiously. You know what I'm saying? Anybody can walk in and it's college football. Anything can happen. That's the whole stagment of college football.
Any given Saturday.
Any given Saturday, something. I mean, Georgia lost to South Carolina 2 years ago. Let that sink in. That's
was one of the best kickers.
Yeah,
he was missing field goals.
Pain. God. So much pain. I don't know what it's like to be normal anymore. But yeah, I'm not going to confirm any of these losses besides maybe Bama. I think Bama is definitely you got to go to Tuscaloosa. I don't see LSU pulling that off.
It's not. I'm not going to confirm. I'm not going to confirm any losses just because. I mean, I know I just said that like I think they are going to lose to Ole Miss and Texas A&M and Florida and Bama, obviously, but I just don't see this team going 11-1 because our only guaranteed really loss is Bama.
Right.
So I don't see the team going 11-1 personally. I just don't think it's a team built that good. So the reason I'm giving them 8-4 is I'm giving them 8-4 because I think they're gonna finish around. Something's in my throat. I'm giving them 8-4 just because I don't think they're gonna go 11-1, and I definitely don't think they're gonna win 10 games. 8-4. If they finish 9-3, that's cool. If they finish 7-5, that's cool. I just feel like the best teams on their schedule, they can lose to, which is Florida, Ole Miss, Bama, Texas A&M. If they go, what was the other one? 7-5. Oh, you can add Auburn to that. And I feel like Arkansas has gotten really good. I'm not gonna say Arkansas is gonna beat them. I'm just saying Arkansas has gotten really good. So just don't sleep on Arkansas.
With Sam Pittman, he's doing some pretty good things.
So
which Georgia
don't
fans
sleep
saw
on
coming.
Arkansas.
But they play Florida, which is when we said we feel like they'll start having some problems. They don't play Florida until that's their 7th game of the season. I'm sure we'll talk about LSU again beforehand, and I know for sure it'll be important because then we'll see their defense in action. Like I really want to see how good this defense is going to be because right now, you know, we see it on paper.
By then.
Yeah, we see this defense on paper.
State.
We see the talent on paper. We see the statistics, but I want to see it in action. And that's going to start.
Exactly.
That's going to start in Pasadena, California, when they face UCLA. Go Tigers!
Go Tigers!
Come on, man.
Fox TV, 8:30 p.m. UCLA, LSU. That's when we will finally see this team in action.
Yeah,
Can Max Johnson?
LSU. That's an easy win. LSU's walking out of there with a 40 bomb on them boys. It's nothing. UCLA is not making any noise.
UCLA has a great quarterback
in California.
I don't think a quarterback can carry
almost, you know what I'm saying? They're not making noise in California. So, I say that with courage. I'm letting LSU fans know you will be 1-0. You will be 1-0. Trust me.
You'll most likely be 3-0.
You know what I'm saying? What receivers do UCLA out on the outside that's going to be able to get past Eli Ricks and Derek Stingley?
You know what? I have an answer for that.
Okay.
Thanks for watching the Sports Junkie Podcast. There are no receivers. So yeah, please subscribe, like the video. We appreciate the love. Yes, next video should be USC if it's uploaded in that time frame. Mm-hmm. So thank you for watching.
Subscribe today to become a junkie. We're trying to hit 200. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about this content. This has been Cam Kid. Till next time, guys. See you soon.
Yes, sir.